Hello, this is Pei Zhang. I will be your presenter for this presentation. We're going to be covering content from the book Translation Practices Explained, Medical Translation Step by Step, Learning by Drafting. The authors are Vincent Montalte Resurreccio and Maria Gonzalez Davis. The topic for this presentation is becoming a medical translator. Some background information about myself. I grew up in mainland China and later studied and worked in Japan, France, Germany, and the States. Apart from medicine and science, I'm also interested in languages. I've always worked part-time as a medical translator or interpreter. Now, I'm a National Board Certified Medical Interpreter in Mandarin, and I'm honored to work for MITIO because I think Dr. Li and my colleagues are truly contributing to something great here. I believe medical translation and interpretation can tremendously enhance effective communication and help those in need, and I hope by sharing my experiences with you, we can learn things from each other and improve our skills together. Drawing on the specifics of medical translation, on the stages of the translation process in a professional context, and on the medical translation market, in this section, we present a selection of the competencies that may help you to become a professional medical translator, either through self-study or following specialized courses, or both. Before we go into competencies, however, we would like to touch on a common debate among translators, teachers, and students. That is, who should translate medical texts? Are doctors the only people that can translate medical texts well? Not necessarily. Can doctors who translate be sensitive enough to linguistic and cultural issues to become good medical translators? Yes, they can. According to Fernando Navarro, a leading medical translator with a medical degree, today specialization has become a requirement for translators and many other professionals, amongst them doctors. It is professional translators who specialize in medical texts, whether they come from the world of medicine, translation, or any other discipline, whom I would consider as medical translators. Marla O'Neill goes a step further. Good medical translation can be done by both medical professionals and medically knowledgeable linguists. But in both cases, a love for language, an ear for style, a willingness to pursue arcane terminology, and caring enough to get it exactly right are the keys to true success. And linguists with appropriate medical knowledge can also produce good medical translations as well. A distinction can be made between comprehension, on the one hand, and knowledge and skill, on the other. Take this example. To understand and explain a cataract operation, you don't need to be an ophthalmologist. Comprehending the cataract operation is necessary, but not enough to perform it. One needs to know how to do it, and not just to understand how it is done by others. What medical translators need is to comprehend the cataract operation, not to be able to perform it. Comprehension takes place at a basic level in cognitive process. Knowledge and expertise go beyond understanding and are of a higher order. Hence, translators without a medical background can acquire an adequate grasp of a medical subject if they have access to appropriate documentation and develop strategies that enables them to think logically. As for doctors who have not been trained in linguistic and cultural issues, with appropriate training they can develop adequate writing skills. What matters at this point is not whether the medical translator has a degree in medicine or translation, but whether he or she has the translation skills required to be an efficient mediator. So it is important to concentrate on those skills, regardless of the educational background. As will be seen when exploring translation competence, doctors will be better prepared in some aspects, whereas linguists will be so in others. Translation competence refers to the ability, skill, or knowledge, both operative know-how and declarative know-what. Translators need to work in an efficient and professional manner. There's still no agreement on which elements are needed to draw the complete map of translation competence, but in the specific case of medical translators, special attention should be paid to the competencies listed in the following slides. Although this is not a complete list, it reflects the main areas on which you can focus your gradual, lifelong education as medical translator. For ease of comprehension, the competencies are grouped under the following labels: language and writing, communication and culture, medical notions, transference, information resources, professional practice, and attitude. Language and writing. Medical translators need to be familiar with the most translated genres, especially in the target language and the formal differences between them, the form and function of medical terms in the languages involved, and the differences between them, the chemical, generic, and trade names of drugs, terminological standardization, international nomenclatures, classifications, taxonomies, and so forth, medical metaphors and images, medical acronyms, abbreviations, and symbols, medical phraseology, especially in the target language, linguistic varieties within the same language. You also need to know that the genre conventions in the languages involved, especially those that may differ between languages, the Greek and Latin roots, prefixes, and suffixes relevant to the information of medical terminology, the interferences that can arise between languages, mainly false friends and calques, the importance of making inferences from textual and contextual elements when trying to understand the source text. You need to be able to understand and write original text belonging to the most translated genres, apply in-house style norms so that specific publishers accept the target text, deal correctly with terminological variations, in particular that caused by polysemy, synonymy, and homonymous terms, apply sound criteria and be creative in supplying medical neologisms in the target language when necessary, determinologize medical terms in the target text so as to make them comprehensible to lay readers when necessary, recognize registers and register mismatches between languages, pronounce medical terms correctly, neutralize the language in order to avoid geographical variations and make the target text readable in any location of the same language. Communication and culture. Medical translators need to be familiar with different types of target readers, their motivations, their expectations, and their purposes in written medical communication, and be able to facilitate their understanding the contents of the source. Different knowledge communities and their implicit and explicit norms, patients, relatives, physicians, nurses, researchers, managers, technicians, and so forth. Different types of authors, their working context, their motivations, and their reasons for writing. The national health systems pertinent to your translation assignments. International health organizations, such as the World Health Organization. You need to know different types of publications and their in-house style norms, the specific situations in which source and target texts are used, the legal norms imposed either on the source text or on the target text, the ethical norms that govern either the source text or the target text, the differences about the social values and beliefs attached to health and disease in different countries and cultures, the euphemisms referring to body parts and functions, and the differences in the languages involved. Medical notions. Medical translators need to understand Greek and Latin roots, prefixes, and suffixes used in medical terminology, main anatomical notions, main physiological notions, main histological notions, the mechanisms of main diseases, etiology, evolution, signs, symptoms, and treatment, the mechanisms of drugs, their composition, their therapeutic effects, and their adverse effects, basic statistics and how they're used in biomedical research papers, the main notions of biochemistry, molecular biology, mental health, and public health, the main instruments and tests used in medicine. Transference. You need to be able to make sure that the transference process does not alter the facts in the slightest detail. Make sure that the sense is properly transferred. Make sure that the information in the target text is true and coherent internally. Translate across genres, that is, translation in which the target text does not belong to the same genre as the source text. Introduce conventions from the target genre in the target text. Carry out self and peer evaluation. Adapt to appropriate cultural shifts. Also, you need to know the stages translators go through during the translation process, translation strategies and procedures, the main transference errors in medical translation in order to both anticipate them and avoid them, and to spot problems and correct them. Information resources. You need to be able to find all kinds of medical information, terminological, stylistic, textual, etc. Efficiently use medical dictionaries, encyclopedias, atlases, etc. Efficiently use major medical information databases, such as Medline. Evaluate the quality of medical information sources. Obtain the collaboration of a subject field expert in the translation process when necessary. You need to know the main organization that generate and distribute medical information, book publishers, research journals, international organizations, governmental agencies, non-governmental organizations, mass media, etc. The advanced search features of main search engines. The main terminological databases. Professional practice. You need to be able to carry out market research, use specific translation tools, negotiate terminological solutions with the clients, obtain all kinds of relevant information from the clients, communicate fluently with the client, keep to the deadlines, work in teams. You need to know legal issues that may affect medical translation practice, fees appropriate for the work you undertake. Regarding attitude, you need to be able to understand the full sense of what you do, constantly update knowledge about medical translation practice, such as new market developments, working tools, subject matter, etc., and about translation studies, new research that may improve translation practice. Motivate yourself and constantly improve self-concept. Improve intra- and interpersonal intelligences, balancing risk-taking and prudence, and being perseverant or capitulating. Justify your translation decisions and accept suggestions. Empathize with peers and clients. You need to be aware of your professional identity, especially when working in contexts dominated by health professionals. Your power to change what you don't like about what you do as a professional translator. How subjectivity may influence relationships with peers and clients. Your strong and weak points as a professional translator. The importance of developing memory, mental agility, and flexibility. As translators, we also need to socialize with peers. Translation is often a lonely activity that we can easily feel isolated and in need of support and reassurance from others who understand our difficulties and who are willing to share their ideas and expertise. Nowadays, such help is available from groups of translators who have lively exchanges and debates on the internet. These groups may be organized in a variety of ways and may differ in orientation, interests, and styles of communication. Some are hierarchical and formal. You may only join if invited to do so, and you may have to submit a CV, whereas others are informal and open to all. Some have a very restricted view of translation and focus almost entirely on terminological problems, while others take a much broader view and include matters of culture and communication. And of course, although all of us are aware of the importance of cultural differences when translating, we mustn't forget this when we communicate with other translators whose cultural norms may differ from our own. Exploring and understanding the following aspects will help you decide which is the best group for you and become one of its members. How do they communicate with each other? What kind of languages, formal or chatty, do they use? What meta-language about translation do they use? What publications do they read? What kinds of information do they exchange? What translation resources do they use? What types of assignment do they receive? What do existing members appear to expect from new ones? The second step is becoming an accepted and active member of that community, while at the same time retaining your own independence and individuality. Through discussing and exchanging all kinds of information about fees, job offers, working methods, new tools, source of information, translation problems and solutions, etc., with other professional translators, you will gain insight into how your profession works and will be able to find your own niche within it. Reading translators' journals and bulletins, and participating in meetings, online forums, distribution lists, and courses will be useful in this respect. Lifelong education of the medical translator is essential for a successful career. Some professional associations are the American Translator Association, the International Federation of Translators, Institute of Translation and Interpreting, and of course the International Medical Interpreters Association.